Let's rock this shit. So what's it about? It's a day in the life of kind of picture. In this case, a convenience store clerk.
Some of the stuff you got me saying, like snooch to the nooch. Yeah, it's like fucking baby talk.
I don't know, man. Doesn't sound like any movie I've ever seen.
Your dance wasn't in the script.
Yeah, but I'm the writer, motherfucker.
He's getting as much sleep as me.
Most days Kevin doesn't even have enough time to sleep before he's got to open the store.
Hello, RST video.
Sheesh.
Moves, I can't take this anymore. Keep saying the same shit over and over.
All right, so I'm Ken Turner, so why don't we just take turns at introducing ourselves? I think that'll be easier.
I am the Ernie O'Donnell, thank you.
Oh, and your role in the film?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, my role in the film. Oh, I play the porn cop. Thank you.
Okay.
You want them to introduce their clerks?
Yes, your connection to the film and to Clerks.
Yes. I was Rick Darris, the trainer. Thank you very much.
Okay. So Ryan.
Ryan James. I am the one of the producers on the film, as well as the co-editor and second unit director. I shot the U.S. footage in the movie.
My name is Brett Murray. You can clap for him. That's fine. My name is Brett Murray. I play Brian Johnson in the movie. I was a producer from the very beginning and had a bunch of other roles in terms of making up the crew.
Hi, my name is Jay Booton, and I play Dave Klein in Shooting Clerks.
Hi, I'm Donna Jean. I'm originally in the original Clerks. I was the dissatisfied customer in the video store. Screw you.
I'm Bern Cohen. I was not in the original, but I played Thomas Burke in this movie, Shooting Clerks. He was in the original.
I'm Bob Hawke. I'm not in the movie, but I am portrayed in the movie by the wonderful Nick Cornwall. I was the one who came to this screening and no one knew who I was.
He's just the man who was the first person to see the film and then pass it around to other people and said, this film must be seen. So to me, he's our father in the sense of he got the word out. And if it wasn't for Kevin obviously making the film is all well and good. I could do King Lear in my bedroom, but if no one comes and sees it, it doesn't make a fucking difference. But this guy made a difference in everybody's lives, in Kevin's life, and all of our lives here. So he's very humble in saying this, but he's not just our founding father of finding the film. You found so many people and discovered so many great films. And his own film that is a documentary about him called Film Hawk, which made the film festival circuit last year, which you should definitely go out and see. It's on iTunes, or will be coming out on iTunes.
Yeah, there is a documentary about me. It's been out for about a year and a half since it premiered at Sundance in January of 2016. I'm just mentioning it because really any Kevin Smith fans will really love this film because other than me, he has the most screen time. and he opens the film for about 5 minutes. But it is on iTunes.
So yeah, see it, Film Hawk.
So you can
the man
see
who got
it on
us
iTunes
out there and who's gotten many other films. I'm Brian O'Halloran. Thank you. I played Dante in the original Clerks. I play Ellis Heimerman here in this Shooting Clerks. I'm also one of the associate producers of the film. It's a fantastic privilege to be a part of this project and film. I never thought in a million years that I would have someone portray me in a film. I mean, America's Most Wanted, absolutely. Hung myself in my bedroom, TMZ, probably in the near future. Who knows? But it's a great spooky rendition of me on screen, and I'm a big fan of it.
Well, we have microphones in the theater, so why don't we open it up for questions?
Do you want to pass that one back, Bern?
Yeah.
Or complaints. You can complain too. It doesn't have to be a question. I want my money back. Fuck you. We've got it already.
Maybe the shout-outs, a couple of shout-outs.
Oh, yeah, and well, before we do that.
Real quick, just want to shout out a couple people. There's not enough chairs in this building. Sorry. That also worked on the movie. Chris G. Lowry's up at the top. He played young Kevin Smith in the nun scene. Now he's coming. I've coaxed him out. Scott Holden was Howard Stern as well in the interview scene. We've also got Joe Bagnall, who's the owner of the First Avenue Playhouse, and was actually, it was during the shitter got out of the litter box scene, and also watched the cat shit in the original Clerks, as well as held the auditions that you see in here. There's also John William, who didn't want me to shout him out, but I'm going to do it anyway. Sorry, dude. He killed Dante in the original Clerks. He also played Cory London in Chasing Amy. If you've seen our trailer online, we have a theatrical trailer. He actually is the one who spits out the exposition outside the Quick Stop, as well as our adopted mother, Grace Smith, the mother of Kevin Smith, who's also here tonight.
So let me see. So questions, I think.
Oh, is this okay?
Good.
Well, yeah, actually, it was just brought up. It was my understanding that in the original, there was an alternate ending where Dante is shot and killed. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a little nitpicky of me, but why didn't you guys explore that a little more?
I think it's a good one for Bob, right?
Okay.
Bob and Brian?
Where I saw it, and I was the only person not connected with the film at what was the independent feature film market in New York. And it screened 11 o'clock on the last Sunday of the market. And the only other person who came was an actress looking for work. But anyway, I saw the film. I thought, oh, this is interesting, but it could be shitty. But I'll watch the first 10 minutes and see. And within 10 minutes, I relaxed in my seat and said, I'm in for the ride. But the ending that showed at the market, Dante is shot. Someone comes in at the end, and
Him.
camera,
He's in the room.
Yeah. And he shoots Dante. And when I finally talked to Kevin after he received all these phone calls, because he didn't know that I knew all these people, but he called me about Wednesday. All the phone calls came in in a couple of days, and he said, Mr. Hawk, I don't know who you are, but thank you. And I said, oh, don't call me Mr. Hawk, just call me Bob. But it took him 6 months before he stopped calling me Mr. Hawk. But I said, the point is, the first thing I said to him was that you cannot kill Dante. You absolutely cannot. Yes, yes. And I said, why did you do that? And he said, well, I thought, every movie has to have something, dramatic, something, that's important. I said, believe me, you do not need that. You have a fine film without it, and you really can't leave the audience with Dante dead and bleeding.
I said it when I read it. When I first read it, I'm like, you can't kill this guy off.
Yeah, and so by the time it screened at Sundance, it was cut off.
Yeah, so that was the only screening that we actually showed that original ending.
Yeah.
Because he was like Bob and John Pearson and a few others said, all you're going to do is you're going to piss off the audience. You're just going to make them angry at the writer. I mean, I understood his point, saying like, look, how ironic is it? Here he is, he's called in on his day off, and he gets killed. It's, that actually happens to many bodega owners especially, where there's shootings all the time. So I understood his logic behind it, because I said to him, like, really? Why would you want to kill the guy off? It's such a... And he was like, no, don't you get it? The irony of it all. He's not even supposed to be here today, and he gets killed. It's fucking tragic. I'm like, and that's what life is, a series of down endings, remember? And I was like, oh, okay. And that's how it went.
Well, but I was absolutely... I didn't beat around the bush. I said, you have to cut that out.
And I appreciate that, Bob.
Another question. Yes. Sorry, I didn't see you. At the very top. Oh, there we go. Microphone's coming. Oh, no, don't worry.
Yeah, sorry. I always sit in the back when I watch a film because I like to see the whole screen. But my question is for the cast of shooting Clerks. Did you have any access with the people you were portraying before you filmed? Did you get to speak to them at all? What were you going off when you were trying to embody them?
You have the internet. Yeah, I had tremendous access to Thomas Burke. I probably watched it about 30 times just to seep into who he was. Then I was able to borrow my nephew's green jacket, which was just like Thomas's green jacket. And I had the black hat. But yeah, it's nowadays, if you're portraying somebody, I've had that experience in other films as well. The internet is tremendous in that regard, for me.
Does this work? Yeah, it does.
Yes, I think so.
Great. Chris, you've actually kind of got a more interesting answer.
Well, I got the job from my English teacher because she already knew that I was a fan. And as for and thank you, Miss Curtis, who's not here right now, but she's also in the original. And she portrayed the nun. So to get into the character, my last name is Smith, and I'm fat, so it was not easy.
For me, it was a double-edged sword because I didn't have as much stuff to go from. Like, obviously, the guys that played, Brian and all that, they have like all the documentaries and then the films themselves that they've all been in, which didn't, gave them something to work off. Which made it more difficult for me, but at the same time, it kind of made it easier as well because I didn't have as much pressure on me to be Dave as closely as these guys obviously had a lot of pressure on them to really recreate these characters that we all know and love so much. There's a bit, he's in the Snowball Effect documentary a little bit, but he's kind of like, he was there to just work and do his job, and he wasn't really a character. Even when the behind-the-scenes camera's on him, he's kind of just like, nah, I don't, I'm just here to do the camera stuff. I did get to meet him when we were last in America in the last November. I got to sit down and have a few pints of beer with him, and he gave us some insight, and he said I did a really good job despite having limited access. So, it was good. It was freeing, and luckily I'm naturally a lot like him, especially now I'm going bald. But yeah, it was easier, but it was harder in many respects.
When you hear how this guy really talks, then you know he's really a great actor.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't actually meet Brian Johnson until last Wednesday. We didn't have any contact with him at all during the course of the film, and because he's not actually seen during any of Clerks as we portrayed, he wasn't involved. He fell out with Kevin beforehand, but was involved in sort of the pre-production phase, if you will. So in sort of creating Brian's character for our film, it was a mix of creating the real life character that Randall could have been inspired by, as well as taking sort of some insight from him in terms of what he did with Vulgar, which was his feature film, as well as looking at how he acts every day in Comic Book Men. So we watched a lot of Comic Book Men to try and derive how a younger Brian would act, and then find a halfway between that and Randall. And so that was the experience that I sort of drew on in order to create that character.
Well, for those who were in the original Clerks, what was the audition like? What did you first think of the project when you first saw the script, when you first heard about it?
I was probably one of the first to read the script. Kevin sent it to me from film school. And to be honest, I thought his mother was going to be fully offended by all the vulgar language, because we grew up in Catholic schools. So that was my first impression. I thought it was bold to make that film, a little risky at that time, since the Generation X thing was kind of just starting. So it's true, I was a little hesitant about him making that film. Am I glad he made it and he was bold enough to make those steps forward? Yes, I was. But I ain't gonna lie, I was, that Catholic boy in me, like Gracie up there would know, was kind of making me think it was a little bit too much with the vulgarity, but it was, there was a lot of it, but it was true to life, and that's how we did kind of speak, so it was good. As far as the auditioning goes, the auditioning process is true. I didn't audition. I kind of did read cold lines with Betsy, and that's how it went. As me and Kevin used to do in our skits in high school before, we did 3 years of SNL-type skits and plays. Me, Kevin, Belly, never practiced, never auditioned. We did everything cold, right up on stage, right off of his words. So that's basically why I did it the way I did it. I just kind of went in cold like that. But it worked out well. Brian was wonderful, and meant to play the part of Dante.
Well, actually, when Kevin came and asked my husband if he could use the theater for the auditions, and my husband said, sure, fine. Do you mind if we invite some of our theater people to audition? And Kevin said, sure. So that's how a lot of the actors in the show came to be. Brian.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brian O'Halloran was one of them. Myself, my
Marilyn
husband.
Marilyn Gigliotti, Joe Bagnolo.
Yeah. It
Gary.
was really funny. I just found out this evening, actually, that the reason we didn't realize the extent of the vulgarity was because when my husband was present, they did the monologues, which were fine, which didn't hold a lot of vulgar language. And then when he would leave, they'd start the script, which had all the vulgarity in it. So we did not know at the time.
Yeah, I just told Donna and Joe that story tonight. I was like, the auditions, we all did our monologues because they said all the actors come with a prepared monologue, which are always usually very tame. But once your husband would go in the back room to the office, that's when he would hand out scenes like, okay, very quickly, do this scene, read the script, and that's where the whole vulgarity would come out. And then as soon as your husband would come back, all right, we'll go back to monologues. Everyone just go back to monologues, and we would audition again. When I auditioned for Kevin, Joe Bagnolo, who's here tonight, the owner, along with Donna Jean of the First Avenue Playhouse, which is still to this day operating in Atlantic Highlands on First Avenue. Please come by, see a great show.
29 years and counting.
I was doing community theater there at the time, and he had called my house saying, hey, these guys in a month or so are doing this film. I think you'd be the right age group for this film that they're doing. You should come on down. I was like, okay. I was doing a show at another theater in Monmouth County at the time when the month came and went. The first audition, which I think was either a Sunday or a Monday, had come and gone. I totally just forgot about it. The next morning, Joe Bagnall himself had called me saying, "Hey, Brian, I thought you were coming down to this audition for this film." I'm like, "Oh my God, did I miss it?" He goes, "Well, it was last night, but we have another night tonight. You should come down." I'm like, "Okay, what do they need?" Like, "Well, they said bring a prepared monologue." So I cobbled together a monologue and went down there for the second night of auditions. And the audition, if anybody has the Clerks 10-year anniversary edition of the DVD, the Clerks X, they have all of the extras as our auditions on tape. And I auditioned with this very evil, maniacal script. I had no idea what I was auditioning for. It could have been porn for all I knew, as it's hinted in the film here. But he liked what I did and had me come back 2 more times to the rec center in Leonardo for a callback, and liked what I did and said, "How would you like to play this character?" I read the stormtroopers, the independent contractor scene with Kevin. He's like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "He's hilarious. The other guy's really funny." And he's like, "Do you want to do the role?" I'm like, "Sure." And then I was like, "Well, who are they in the film?" And he's like, "Oh, well, it's the main guy. The film is called Clerks, and there's the 2 clerks, and this is one of the 2 main guys." And I said, "Oh, but when I auditioned the first night, they said that all the main parts were cast." He goes, yeah, but don't worry about that." I was like, "Oh, okay." And that was the end of that. And thank you, Ernie, for being such an amazing gentleman about the whole thing as well. And I didn't know this until literally like years later that had happened. Like, he never told me like, "Oh, well, don't, this guy was going to be it, but he's going to be this now." So, but thank you.
Is there another question? Anyone? Oh, yes.
Hey, what do you think would happen, like, if under the same circumstances, like the 1994 Clerks, or, 94, I think, was made today in, like, the digital age? Like, what do you think would be different, or how, like, the life of the movie, what do you think it would be?
Perhaps it wouldn't have made such an impact today as it did then.
As in, like, the movie, does the 1994 one still exist, or just not at all? We're just, the first time it's ever being made is now, is what you're saying? Okay. The same thing, I think. Honestly, with making a movie with your friends, going into debt, just working, casting your friends, like, who's acting, they jump right in and they grab the boom pole. I mean, movies are still being made like that, and people haven't even seen Clerks. But I think it's very much an inspirational tale of indie filmmakers, indie to the core, and that's really what this one was. We just kind of lucked out with our subject matter.
I actually think it jump-started indie productions. I really, really do. Because once Kevin Smith made that film and became so famous from it and went on to do so many works, I think it made young people today feel that, wow, if he could do it, so can I. I know several young people who did the theater courses in college who are now trying to do their own films, where before I don't think they would have tried, perhaps, but now they are.
I have 2 things to say. One, his fan base. His fans keep growing up. My niece teaches English in high school in Vineland, New Jersey, and she said every year up to today, there is a certain contingent, certain students who know Clerks.
Oh, yes.
And they don't know that she knows Clerks very well. She's quite a fan. And they'll sometimes be giggling in a corner. And often they will be repeating the titles of all those videos. and then she comes up and she begins talking about Clerks, and they think she's so cool. But for some reason, it does not die.
No.
I mean, I told her, let me know when you have your first class where you don't have some Clerks fans, and it hasn't happened yet. And as I said, when Kevin goes around touring, his fans are all ages, you know, and
it is spooky. It's spooky now seeing Generation Xers who are, you know, now our age, in our 40s, who now have their own kids, and now their kids are, you know, 15 to 17 to even 21, who are now, they become fans as well. And I jokingly I see them at film festivals and Comic-Cons all the time, and they come up and they're like, oh, big fan of yours and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, you're quite young. Where's your parents? He's like, right here. He's the one who showed it to me. It's just like, it's kind of cool, you know. I'm like, well, it looks like you turned out okay. I don't see you in leg irons, so you're good. You haven't been convicted of anything yet.
I'll add, going back to the question of what if it were now, one thing that would be very different is that now it would be digital. And
well, there'd be no video movie rental store.
That's right. That's what I was going to say. There'd be no store next door.
There'd be the guy who services the red box at the Walmart. That would be Randall. I mean, I see it in I've been pitched from fans every type of workplace movie you can imagine. Hey, you should do a movie about this garage. There's this mechanic down the block. Oh my God, he's hilarious. He's just like Randall. He pissed in this guy's gas tank. It was crazy. I'm like, you should make that movie then. Like I've heard like nurses. I've heard all sorts of things. Deli clerks and airline stewardesses. I'm like, do it. Make your movie. You obviously have the connection. You've lived it. Make that movie. And that's what it is. It's really a slice of life, day in the life movie of what Kevin did. Kevin, as you saw, worked that store. If he never got that picture sold, he'd be paying off that $28,000 somehow.
But you have to be able to write.
Yeah.
After Clerks was a success, and I'm a consultant for film festivals, and I pre-screen films. I also am hired privately to critique new films. And for years after Clerks, I saw so many people trying to do Clerks in warehouses, in pizza parlors. But even though every other word was a vulgarity, they didn't get the point. It isn't just a bunch of people in a workplace talking dirty. I feel that Kevin had his finger on the zeitgeist, on real people, and he was smart. He knew a lot of things about behavior, and it was authentic. I don't think he was trying to be dirty. He was just reflecting the life he knew. But there are so many films that none of you will ever see, but I've seen them. And they're horrible. They're just horrible.
Okay. We have time for one more question. Yes.
What was the budget of shooting Clerks versus the original movie?
The budget.
Okay. As being an associate producer of the film, it was $1 million. Yes. If you want to buy the film, it is $1 million.
Okay.
These filmmakers who go out and brag, I made it for $20. I'm like, you stupid ass. You realize a distributor like, I will pay you then $50. You've now nearly tripled your budget. So filmmakers who come out and say, I made it for so-and-so, trying to get their old like pissing contests, like, look, I'm economical with budgets. That's all well and good. You can find out the real budget for $1 million. What does it look like to you, sir? How much does it look like we spent? We always ask this, so give a number. What would you say? $20? Cool. That doesn't even counter the gas we paid to come here. Anyway, what would you say? 200,000? All right, that's a good number. It's a good number.
Okay. All right.
We'll meet you out in the lobby if you want to talk.
Well.
And I guarantee you, we won't sign a contract on a napkin.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, we need to wrap it up. So thank you for attending tonight. Thank you for participating. And please stay for the 7:30 awards presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. Please stay. We're going to have an award ceremony coming up. And thank you very much for everybody for showing up. What a great panel. Let's give a hand.